is x gets x minus 30. The other one is y gets y minus 10. Are we okay so far? Okay. So what question number 3 is stating is we know that at this point, after the merge, we know that x equals 30 and y equals 30. That is a known fact, because I stopped the program's execution, I took a look at the variables, and that's the values that they contain. So knowing this, can we work our way back and figure out what would be the precondition here? That's the question. Now, in order to do something like that, you have to make sure that all the steps involved before this, they're all reversible. The question is, are they all reversible? In other words, if I say, well, I don't know which path I actually took, I could have taken this path or I could have taken this path. If I had taken this path, can I reverse the operation here? Yeah, sure, we can reverse that operation. X minus 30 is what I did, but in order to undo x minus 30, I can just add 30 to the value of x. Then I know what x was before that statement. Well, let's go ahead and do that. And you can use the same notation, just circle the branch, and then just say, well, at that time, we know that this condition has to be true. In this case, it does not have to be formal. It doesn't have to be, okay, this is the right-hand side, that's the left-hand side, this is the inverse, and so on and so forth. You can just kind of write out your reason in this case. So we can basically go back here, and then you say, at that point, I know that x equals to 60, and y equals to 30. Does that make sense? Because after the subtraction, we have x equals to 30. So before the subtraction, it must be 30 more than what it is after the subtraction. Is that okay so far?
Why not 40 above that?
Y is still 30 because I can only choose one branch.
Okay.
If I came from this branch here, it would not have done anything to y. It would only have done something to x. And that's why it is important to separate the analysis of this branch and this branch, because the two statements do different things to the variables. So similarly, I can take a look here and say, well, if I know that y equals to 30 at this point, and assuming that I took this path, the else path here, do I know anything about y before it gets into the else branch? Well, once again, it is reversible, because this is just subtracting 10 from y. After the subtraction of 10 from y, I have 30. So that means before I would have 40. Okay, so you can say x equals to 30 because in this case it didn't do anything to x. Yeah, I got it. Right. Okay. Well, that's good. So now the question is, can I even go one step further, and have some sort of conclusion of what do I know at this point? Now it seems like we can just do an or, just like before, because we can say we could have come from this branch and we could have come from this branch, so it is just an or. Well, do you think it is an or? Do we have any dead branches here? In other words, if I did take this branch, do you think this condition is true? Yeah, it's true. Because if I got here, I got to make sure that x is in fact greater than y. X being 60 and y being 30 means that x is greater than y. So everything is consistent. I definitely could have come this way with this as a precondition. That could have happened. What about the other side? The other side is saying right before the else branch, I know that x equals to 30 and y equals to 40. Would that be a valid branch to take because of the decision that I made earlier? Yeah. So that means I really could have come this way or come this way. So that means you cannot really tell by the time you get all the way up here. Then you have to use an or to join the two sides together. So it's going to look a little bit ugly because it's going to say x equals to 60 and y equals to 30. Okay? And then the whole thing or x equals to 30 and y equals to 40. That would be your answer. Okay, and once again, this is just an exposure thing. I'm not going to ask anything quite like this in the test. Yep.
So you allow us just that drawing exactly would suffice as an answer for that?
This drawing would be fine. Yes. But can anyone see why this is valuable? Why this may be a helpful kind of skill in debugging? You're going upstream instead of downstream. Yep.
For a program, it comes out with an answer that you didn't expect it to come out, so you can backtrace it.
You can backtrace it. At least by the time you get back to this point, you know that there are only two possibilities. One possibility is x equals to 60 and y equals to 30, and the other possibility is x equals to 30 and y equals to 40. Now, which one is it going to be? You would not know. Okay, just knowing that x equals to 30 and y equals to 30 at this point does not help you differentiate which one of these would be true. But you know that at least one of them has to be true. And in this case, they are exclusive because x cannot be both be 60 and 30 at the same time. Y cannot be 30 and 40 at the same time. Okay. What does that mean when you debug a program? Since you cannot differentiate between those two cases, you probably still have to put a breakpoint here. Stop the program a little bit earlier next time and see which one really is the case. Because otherwise, if you start with this and you try to push your way, back even earlier, that means you will end up with more and more and more disjunctions, which is kind of it gets a little bit hard to handle. It doesn't really tell you where the fault is, when you kind of continue to move like this upward. So are we okay so far? Okay, well that's it. Those are all the 3 questions that we have. 3 additional questions for the practice test. Anything that we talked about so far that you want me to go over to clarify? No? This is all good? And you guys are going to be good computer science majors. Well, I mean, one gauge is see whether you guys can survive my classes. I don't really intentionally make my classes hard. It could have been a lot harder, like asking more questions like this. But understanding the solution is already a good indicator that you guys really understand the concepts. So that's good. That's encouraging. So let me go ahead and save this file. So this way I know for sure it is in the class notes. How many of you are taking classes using D2L? It went down on Saturday. But this time is not the district. The district was not at fault. Did they explain it to you guys? No?
Down until Sunday, but check back later, might be back early.
Yeah, this time, they really should have sent an email explaining the situation, before people get upset with the district. This time it's because, some construction company was digging, and they dug up the fiber optic. Yeah, it depends on the size of the bundle. I mean, some of that stuff is really hard to repair. I mean, you need to call a technician, in the middle of the day on a Saturday to fix a bunch of, optic fiber cables. It's not cheap and it's not easy.
I bet that cost a pretty penny. I bet that cost a pretty penny.
It probably cost the company, the construction company's insurance, it's going to be paid out of the insurance.
They gotta have a deductible. It's not low.
Well, it depends. Maybe that company has, a track record of digging up stuff that they're not supposed to dig up. Set a lower limit, set a lower deductible, and still make money. But this time it was not, a problem with the internal network. It was not a problem with the computer servers. It was strictly the cable that goes into the district. So the entire district was down on Saturday. Yeah, no email, no, nothing. There's nothing available. But if you use Moodle, it's still up.
What's the weirdest hardware problem?
What?
What's weird? Hardware problem?
Well,
They dug up the actual fiber?
Yeah, they dug up the network cable, and it's a fiber. So,
like schematics of the ground?
They're supposed to have that sort of thing. Either they start with an older diagram.
They don't always follow those, and then sometimes they cut corners and cut costs. It's just get that stuff.
Take the chances, right?
Or cut time. It's going to take too much time to get the blueprints.
Fiber optic cables are expensive.
Get ready to take my nutrition test.
Well, I guess the fiber portion of your nutrition test is out.
Oh, get it?
I have a question. It's just about computer science in general.
Mhm.
I heard on NPR today that there's a virus attacking a nuclear facility in Iran. Have you heard anything about that? It's
No,
specifically targeting Siemens machinery.
That is possible. It depends on. That is interesting that they will target Iran.
Yeah.
So there are only so many countries that we know of, that will target specifically Iran.
Right.
If you think about targeting the United States, just about everybody, right? But when you talk about Iran, well, a handful.
Right.
Yep.
Did you ever hear about the cough picker virus?
Yeah, but that one's older.
Yeah, that was old. Did you ever hear about that?
No. Well, I use Linux, so it really doesn't have a chance to stick to Linux.
You know what's weird about the Iran one? Is that Iran uses Windows 7 to run their nuclear facilities.
That would be, that would.
I don't think I trust Windows or Microsoft to my nuclear reactor because any bug could destroy the world. Kind of.
Okay, so here's the original article. As Western governments continue to analyze the origin and impact of the Stuxnet malware, which has affected at least 30,000 IP addresses in Iran. Okay, well, that's always the case, the sophisticated nature of the virus, because, non-sophisticated viruses would not have any chance on Windows 7. Windows 7 should have patches against all the non-sophisticated type. When we look at the capacity of this worm, we see that it's not made up by ordinary hacker group, which basically implies that it is most likely, state-sponsored. That's usually what they're implying, without actually spelling it out. It's saying, well, we don't know it is any specific hacker. It is a group or nations behind the attack. Iran has played down reports that the virus has damaged its nuclear power station. But Western experts are keen to know whether the virus may have affected Iran's crucial uranium enrichment site at Natanz. Okay, well that's interesting. I didn't know about it. I was, still living under a rock. Yeah.
About this now because the president of Iran had a meeting with the UN and they were already down.
Well, they could have sent Carter over there. Do you guys know about Carter? Ex-President Carter. During the 3 Mile Island meltdown incident. Did you guys know that he actually went on site? And after he went on site, they kind of disclosed. There were two groups of people assessing the situation differently. One group of people said, this is going to blow anytime, and the other group said, nah, this is fairly, safe, should be okay. But Carter decided to stay there anyway, because if he had left in a hurry, that would just, stir up, people around the area who could not leave the site. So he just decided, well, I guess, have to stay, stay with the nuclear station this time. Because I think his background is also physics. Isn't that right? He is a physics major. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. That's why I said send Carter over there and have an inspection. But that's entirely possible. Now, how does that have to do with computer science?